If you found yourself wondering whether it's time to stop painting, if your brushes have been sitting dry for weeks or even months, if you've looked at your work and thought, what's the point? I just want to say, I've been there. Truly. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit of my story about feeling like giving up and why I didn't, while we paint together an easy woodland songbird. Let's get started. Today I'm going to paint using both of my Kuretake sets, a little scene in the forest or in the woodland or wherever, which includes a bird or maybe two, I'm not sure yet, and some leaves and some twigs and stuff like that, but very, very simple, easy for anybody, no matter how much of a beginner you are, to do, and it'll have probably have a little bit of embellishment or doodly type stuff on there too. So let's get started. I'm going to use this piece of Meeden watercolor paper, 12 by 9, cold press, 100% cotton. I think it's probably one of the best papers I've ever come across for beginners and even improvers, and heaven forbid, for, even professionals could paint on this and there would be no problem. It's acid-free, it will not change the colours. There still seems to be a bit of debate about whether or not Kuretake paints are going to hold their colour fastness. I happen to think that since Kuretake say so, we should probably trust them, but I know it's not easy sometimes to believe what we're told, but for the purposes of most of the art I do anyway, I'm sure their light fastness is quite good enough. So I'm going to, I'm not going to draw the whole thing out, but I think I'm going to settle for one bird, and I'm going to sketch the bird first of all. I'm going to put him more or less in the middle, and we're going to have him singing, and or her, although it's often the males that sing the loudest, as we know. So we'll just put the bird here, and I'm just going to very, very lightly do the outline of him, and we'll put his legs, as birds' legs do, coming forward from a long way back there, and the branch will go through underneath him. So that's enough to get started. Won't necessarily follow those lines exactly, but that's where the bird is. And because of the way I'm going to do the background, we don't need to mask him out or anything. We can paint on top of what I put behind. Now, I've got here both of my paint sets, as I said. This is the Art Nouveau set. I think it's probably more or less correct in what it's got in it, but as you can see, it's looking a little aged, a little creaky, a little wrinkled, but all those colours have got white in them, so they're pastels. Yes, I think they all are, perhaps with the exception of this red, but that looks a little bit pastel-y. And you can take almost any 4 or 5 of these colours and you can make a harmonious colour scheme from that. So that's really good. And this is the 48 set. Again, it's looking a little bit elderly, especially down here in the blues. So I need to get some replacements for those. And the yellows as well are looking a bit worn. And this couple of reds here, but it doesn't matter. There's plenty more life in the old girl yet. So again, you can pretty much take any 4 or 5 of these colours and make a harmonious composition, because that's the way they're designed. I'm sure they are chosen carefully by Kuretake so that you can do that. And so all I have to do is make my mind up whether I'm going to do something a little bit smoky like this and pick my colours from here, or whether I'm going to do something a little bit more, and this applies to you, of course, that's why I'm telling you this, or whether I'm going to do something a bit more vibrant using these colours, or, as I might very well do today, am I going to do the background using this and the foreground using that? So I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So for the time being, I'll just put them stacked like that to one side. I should mention actually about this tray where I keep my 48 sets, because so many people have asked about it over the last couple of years. And it is the lid to a palette from Meeden. It's a lid that comes with their studio palette, which is a big one. This one here, which I don't use very often because it's gosh darn heavy. But that's the lid that comes with it to keep the paints dry. So if you want one like this, you have to buy that palette, which is not exactly the best recommendation I've ever given, but I don't know what else to say really, other than if you can find a nice tray with online or somewhere like that, with a fairly deep side and somewhere where you can write the names of the paints and give you a space in the middle. You know, if you can find one online, go for it. But this item is at least $30. I'm not quite sure actually what the price is, but it's not cheap. Anyway, I have said that now, and hopefully that will be helpful. So for the background, I'm going to do some colourful or subtle patches. I'm going to be working, actually, I'll show you this. This is a painting I did a while ago I don't think it's a video. I don't think I ever did this for a video, but I'm going to be following this as a guide. It's sometimes nice to go back and redo something you did yourself once upon a time. And I'm going to use the misty soft greens that I've got over here, and I'm going to put the colour on the paper with a quill brush like this one, which is this is a Paul Rubens one, but Meeden make them sell them exactly the same. And so you could go to Meeden and get 15% off if you put Diane 15 in the box when you check out. I think actually they do it automatically for you now. So that's nice, isn't it? So let us use a nice subtle green. Let's see what this is. Yeah, that looks quite good. Quite like that colour. So we'll use that one. I'll put it there for a second and wash off my brush and pick up something else. What could go with that? How about a rusty colour, something like this one? Opposite side of the colour wheel. About the same kind of intensity. You know, it's a different colour completely, but it's about as dark as that in a way. And then we need something which is going to contrast. So maybe this brown. Yeah, I think we'll use those three colours for the background. Okay, so since I've got that on my brush, I'm going to pop that in here. Maybe I'll add a bit of that. I don't normally mix my paints up in advance when I'm using the Kuretakes, because I can just go straight into those colours and use them, you know. So we'll do that, and then we want it nice and light. So, and I'm going to ignore the bird, paint over him. A little bit of this green over here. You might be wondering about the title for this video, which I have to think a little bit while I'm doing this, of course, which I gave it, which was why I changed my mind about giving up watercolor painting. And I will talk about that as we go along. Okay. But it is true. I did it was 2010, and we'd not long moved to France, partly moved. We weren't completely there because we were running a business in England. And we were living in a motorhome because if you remember in 2008, things got really difficult. We had a financial crash, didn't we? And we lost a lot of our customers, and we'd been doing quite well up until then. And then all of a sudden, everyone was unable to afford to come to our tuition centre. So that was terrible. And we had to reposition ourselves in the housing market, which meant we went to live in a motorhome for a while. That's me and my daughter. And so we came over to France and we parked the motorhome. This was around Christmas time, if I remember rightly. in the garden of our house. And then, well, I was alone. Tamsin had gone back to work, and I was there with our dog, actually. We had Zoe at the time, our Kieshond. And so I was a bit lonely and I didn't have anything to do. But I was painting at that time, and I was painting to sell, trying to sell anyway, to make a bit of extra money. And of course, that had got very difficult too after the financial debacle. Was that the right green? No, it was this one, wasn't it? Anyway, so I was getting very fed up about it all, and I thought, I'm going to give up painting. I'm not going to do it anymore. It's not worth it. I'm wasting my time. I should concentrate on more important things, and I'm just going to give it up. So that was my mood, and I put an advert in the paper to try to sell my stuff, because I had a lot of equipment, and some of it was big and bulky, like a big plan chest and everything. I had someone phone up, and he wanted to buy the plan chest, so I thought, well, that's it. I'm committed now. But then I was sitting in the motorhome and had nothing else to do, so I was kind of looking through the local paper, and I saw an ad for an art class. Now, bearing in mind, I'm in France. This is rural France, and it's not always easy to find that kind of thing over here. So I'm just wondering, that's it, isn't it? I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. And the ad was in English, so I assumed that it was being run by an English person, which it was. So I phoned them, and he sounded fairly interesting. I'm just going to soften these bits up here. So you can see what I've done here. I've just covered the page, more or less, in some nice moody colours. And I'm just going to let that dry. I'll put the hairdryer on it in a second. So anyway, I phoned this guy, and he said, why don't you come along? And I said, okay. He said, it's sort of for beginners, but, we'll accept anybody. So did I mention about the snow? Yeah, the reason I was trapped in my motorhome was mostly because we had 2 feet of snow outside, and it never snows here, but that year it did. And so that was what brought me to the position of looking in the newspaper and finding this advert. And so, well, really, that was the end of the story, because I went to the class and I found that it was something to focus on, and I didn't feel quite so useless as I had done up until then. So I didn't sell my plan chest. Okay, so that's dry now, and I'm just going to find another brush. Let's see. I'm going to actually do something which I don't necessarily always do, which is to try out a couple of brushes to see whether they're going to give me the right stroke. I've got, this is a size 11, this is an 8, and this is a 12, but these are both Drawwell brushes, and this is a Princeton Aqua Elite. So I'm thinking of putting some nice leaves onto here. So I'm going to test the brush stroke out to see whether it's going to work. And I'm just, this is only a trial, so I'll just see. Right, so this is what happens with the Princeton, which I do like. Now, is that the kind of shape I want? And this is what happens with the Drawwell, the red one. Yeah, that's basically too big. That's all that they're wrong with that. This one is smaller, as you can see. I think I'm thinking to myself, I might use the Princeton, but I might use the smaller one if I can find it. Yeah, there it is. Let's try that. Yeah, that's going to be the right size. Okay, so this is Princeton Aqua Elite, size 8 round, and that's going to give me the sort of shape that I want for these leaves. Now, I'm going to use some, what's basically yellow ochre, I think, and some raw umber. And I think I'll probably also use maybe a colour from the other set. Yes, this one here, which I've already used a bit, and maybe that's green. This one. Okay, so those two and those two is going to be the leaves. The way I'm going to do this, I shall put the leaves in first and then I'll join them up with the stem. And I'll probably need to use 2 strokes for a lot of the leaves, but we'll see how that goes. I might start near the top with the yellow colour. And I'm not going to worry about them running. And this is just a little bit of fun. Anyway, no story is what's the word, straightforward. And although I didn't sell my stuff, I did have quite a few hiccups along the way as we went forward, and I often stopped painting. And I think that's something to remember, is that you can take a break, but it doesn't mean to say you've given up, does it? And your paints will be waiting for you to come back to them, won't they? You just put them in a drawer and life changes and you need them again, or you decide now is the time. And so that's the way it was for me. I nearly gave up, but I didn't. But I didn't really go full pelt into what I'm doing now for a long time after that, because we had all sorts of things happening. But when we had the pandemic, we lost our business completely. And so we had to do this. And I'm really glad that we did. Isn't that lovely where that brown goes over that blue? I think it's really very interesting the way these paints work. I'm going to go in for a bit of green here. Okay, so there's a nice row of leaves down there. Just introduce a few more greeny ones going forward here. Okay, and then we want, let me see, we want a biggish one over here, I think, so we're going to have some fun here. I just bring and often I don't bother to wash out my brush between strokes. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But because sometimes you get some really interesting colours. And after I started carrying on really with my painting here, I built this studio where I'm working now. And I started to work in oils mostly. I sort of tried to establish myself as an oil painter here, but I soon discovered that Brittany is not very artistically they're not really interested in painting here. And the French, and then when it comes to watercolors, The French have a completely different approach. They paint very lightly and very, basically, to my mind anyway, quite accurately and tightly. And I didn't think that the market was here for me the way it had been in England, you know. So we tried selling from the door paintings. We had a little campsite on our property here for a while, and people would come and stay, and we had a little shop, and we sold eggs and jam, and we sold my paintings. We sold quite a lot. I won't say it was a complete failure. So it kind of, the whole thing drifted on. And probably had it not been for the pandemic, probably would have still been pretty much in the same place, to be honest. So sometimes it's not necessarily up to you what happens, is it? Sometimes your life takes a turn, very often, actually. And it's nothing to do with your conscious decision to do this or that. And I'm going to mix some brown with the green, and I'm going to just put a couple of little twigs coming down from above here. And maybe another one over here. And then in a second, we'll paint the bird. I might do him quite dark. So that we can put some embellishments on him. Okay, so there's that. Let me just put my hairdryer on here so I don't smudge anything. Okay, so I'm going to paint the bird fairly simply, and I'm going to give him a nice green back in this colour, the same colour that we've been using. So it's a darkish green, and we'll ignore his eye for the time being because it's very fiddly to draw around, so I'll just try to leave a little bit of, you know, light there, but not worry too much. And I'm going to come down to his tail, press down and pull up like that. I'm going to leave that a little bit loose like that, I think. And then a bit more green, and we'll bring his neck around like that. And then I'm going to swoosh round up to there, and then just fill that in. Okay. Just make that a little bit more solid there. And in a minute, I'm going to take a break and quickly go and have lunch. Come back and very quickly finish off. Okay, so this is now dry, and I'm going to carry on with it. I seem to have a bit of a pencil mark up there. I'm not quite sure what's going on in that corner, but never mind. A few things need to be done still, don't they? And one of them is I need to paint the beak. I want to make the bird start to look a bit more birdy. So let's take some light brown and just paint in the beak of the singing bird. And we'll put a little bit of darker on the inside, just like that. And then I'm going to do the eye, I think, using a pen. But while I've got this fine brush, this one's a 3, very fine one, I shall put some veins into some of these leaves. And I'll do them in different colours, because I think if you use different colours, first of all, you know, that colour will change depending on what it hits. And so you'll have even more different colours. But it's much more lively if you keep on changing the colours. And if and when we pick up our white pen, we can do some light coloured ones if you want on some of the darker coloured leaves. Okay, so it does make them look much more leaf-like once they've got their centre veins in. You don't need to put more than just the centres, really. And you can see we've got some interesting backgrounds in places like here, where the paint stopped spreading before it had spread to the whole thing. And let's put some green ones on these. And up here, you can join them onto the stems if you like. But you don't have to. And I think I might put in some, using a bigger brush again, a little bit bigger. I think I might put in some berries. Obviously, this is a completely made up plant. As I said, I based it on one I'd done a while ago. I don't know where I got the inspiration from. We all get our inspiration from here and there, don't we? Sometimes we don't even remember where. Just put some very small ones up here, perhaps. Okay, I think that's probably enough. And then we need to finish off the bird. Oh, I tell you what I've forgotten before I do the bird. I've forgotten what he's standing on. And let's put a little bit of black in with this brown to make it a little bit darker, maybe a bit of red, maybe. And here's his feet. There we are, and we'll put a few couple of leaves there. Don't think there's room down here really. Maybe, no, I think I'll just leave that for the minute anyway. Okay, I think I might use some gold on him. I might, on my original, I had sort of, I did it in white, but I think I'll use gold because I think it'll give a slightly richer effect. And I think I might go over where I've left the white. Because I really mainly left that because I didn't want the two to run together because I was in a hurry to get my lunch. There we are. And let's put his feet in. Oh yeah, that's that. And let's see. Got a nice white pen here somewhere. Not that one. Hang on. Now this isn't super bright white, which is, I think, quite nice to go with this particular colour scheme. So I'm going to just put some dots in like that. Okay, and now I'm going to do some feathers. This is a metallic gold pen from Hybrid Gel. I'll put the links in the description below if you're interested. If you haven't managed to get hold of one yet. Okay, and then let's have a go at doing his eye. I've got a black pen here, so I'll try to draw a black line around the outside, then leaving a tiny white line and just a little bit of extra. Phew, that worked, that's okay. And we'll rub out this. Now obviously you could do a lot more than that if you wanted to colour him up and to put all sorts of embellishments on. Get rid of that. But I think that'll do for now. And I just wanted to finish by saying that, you know, when I decided that I wasn't going to give up painting, like I said, I didn't paint often, but I didn't give everything away. I went to the class, I built my studio where I am now, and without that we wouldn't have ever been able to have our channel, so that's a real blessing. And basically I've been learning ever since how important it is to have a painting occupation. It's even more important, I think, to paint than it is to do almost anything else that's craft related. I've done almost everything, but with painting somehow it does reach into your heart and soul that much better than anything else that I've ever found. I mean, I expect things like modelling and carving and things like that perhaps are the same for other people, but for me, the thing that I need to do is to cook and to paint. And that way I have been able to reach people and to share my thoughts on the channel like we do in a way that I never ever thought I would be able to do. And the journey to being here has been a long and difficult one I never thought I would ever make, never thought I'd ever achieved. And that's another thing we'll talk about at another time, about why I thought I had to do everything before I was 30. I will be talking about that because it's a true thing. I'm not making that up. So yes, anyway, so there we are. So I would like to encourage you, if you're thinking of giving up because you don't think you're good enough, that's not why you're doing it. It's as simple as that. You're painting because everybody needs to paint, especially now with the way things are in the world. So that's enough of me yakking. I'll let you go and I'll say goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you give it a try, and I will see you on Thursday. So bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.